better known to millions as Cleetus McFarland, crashed his NASCAR test, got approved anyway, signed with one of the most historic teams in the sport, and then showed up at one of the hardest tracks in America and nearly destroyed everything in a single corner. And somehow, after all of that, NASCAR legends are still divided on whether he belongs. This is the full story. Garrett Mitchell is a 30-year-old from Bradenton, Florida, who built a massive online following under the name Cleetus McFarland. His YouTube channel is approaching 5 million subscribers, and his content is exactly what the name suggests. Cars. He builds them, races them, blows them up, and films every second of it. He even owns his own racetrack in Florida called the Freedom Factory. But here is the thing that separates him from every other car-obsessed content creator on the internet. He is not just making videos about racing. He is actually trying to become a professional stock car racer from scratch as an adult against people who have been doing this their entire lives. That is not a YouTube bit. That is a genuine pursuit, and it started getting serious in 2025. Before we get into the racing, you have to understand who Greg Biffle was to Cleetus McFarland, because without that context, none of what follows hits the same way. Biffle was a NASCAR legend, multiple wins across Cup, Xfinity, and Truck Series, a genuine icon of the sport, and somewhere along the way, he became Cleetus McFarland's mentor and close friend. Biffle guided Mitchell through his ARCA debut at Daytona, helping him understand what it actually takes to race at a professional level. Mitchell called their time together some of the greatest moments of his life. On December 18, 2025, Greg Biffle, his wife Christina, and their children Emma and Ryder were killed in a plane crash at Statesville Regional Airport in North Carolina. A 1981 Cessna 550 Citation. The second crashed while attempting to land after returning to the airport shortly after takeoff. Witnesses reported the aircraft erupted into a large fireball upon impact. Mitchell confirmed the news himself. He said, "We are devastated. I'm deeply sorry to share this." At Biffle's memorial and emphasized one motto above everything else: be like Biff. His dream of racing the Daytona 500 was already alive before the crash. After it, that dream became something bigger, a tribute to the man who believed in him when most people laughed. He could have walked away from racing entirely. Instead, he doubled down. In 2025, Mitchell made his first professional stock car start in the ARCA Menard Series, with Rhett Jones Racing driving the number 30 Ford Mustang. In 5 ARCA starts, he grabbed 2 top 10 finishes, 10th at Talladega Superspeedway and a career-best 9th at Charlotte Motor Speedway. For a first-year driver coming from YouTube and drag racing, those results were not nothing. Then came February 2026. Mitchell was approved to make his NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series debut at Daytona International Speedway with Nice Motorsports, piloting the number 4 Chevrolet. But before he could race, he had to pass a test at Rockingham Speedway. He crashed during that test. NASCAR approved him anyway. At Daytona, things fell apart fast. Just 5 laps into the race, Mitchell lost control of his truck completely on his own. No contact, no incident ahead of him. He hit inside wall and his day was done. He finished 37th. He bounced back the following day with an 11th place finish in the ARCA Menard Series race. But the truck result was the one the whole NASCAR world fixated on. Denny Hamlin talked about it on his podcast and said he knew before the race started that it was not going to end well. He said Cleetus never once looked in control. Freddie Kraft, Bubba Wallace's spotter, called out NASCAR's approval process directly on social media. Crash at the Rockingham truck test. Crash lap 5 of your only truck start. Good enough for me. Approved. He added that he did not blame Cleetus. Anyone would jump at the chance. But the process itself, in his view, was broken. Then came the announcement that broke NASCAR Twitter. Just days after the Daytona crash, Richard Childress Racing, one of the most storied organizations in NASCAR history, the team behind 6 Cup Series championships, all won with the legendary Dale Earnhardt, announced a 2-year deal with Cleetus McFarland. He would drive the number 33 Tommy's Express Chevrolet in at least 3 NASCAR O'Reilly Auto Parts Series events per year in 2026 and 2027. His teammates would be Jesse Love, the defending O'Reilly Series champion, and Austin Hill, who at the time sat first and second in the championship standings respectively. The planned races: Rockingham, Talladega, and Daytona. Own words when the deal was announced: to have the opportunity to make my NASCAR O'Reilly Auto Parts Series debut with a legendary race team like Richard Childress Racing is a dream come true. It's a huge honor, and I am incredibly grateful to learn under the leadership of Richard Childress, Mike Verlander, Danny Lawrence, and everyone in Welcome, North Carolina. The NASCAR garage did not share his enthusiasm. Mark Martin, one of the most respected voices in the sport, said that qualifying laps do not prove a driver is ready, and warned that every driver Cleetus would face at Rockingham had far more experience. Martin's verdict: the whole thing scares me to death. Kyle Busch, who is technically a teammate of Mitchell's through RCR, took a direct shot. He pointed out that his own son Brexton has run more races than Cleetus has. Kenny Wallace raised a safety concern specifically about Rockingham Speedway, calling it one of the most demanding tracks in the country. The throttle control required there, combined with a notoriously tricky section called the dogleg, makes it a brutal place to learn. Wallace argued that Cleetus could hurt somebody, and that his fame was the only reason anyone was paying attention. If an unknown driver was doing the same thing, nobody would care. Ken Schrader put it plainly: Cleetus has no business being approved for the race, and called the decision outright wrong. Though Schrader also admitted he enjoys the content and understands why NASCAR wants him involved. More eyes means more ticket sales. Kyle Petty went further. Don't come here if all you are is an internet sensation because you've got no place on a racetrack with those guys. Tommy Baldwin from Rick Ware Racing said Cleetus was hurting himself by moving up too fast and did not even know the difference between a pro late model and a super late model. Brad Keselowski offered the most balanced take. He said he would rip the approval process up and start over. But he also said he does not blame a guy like Cleetus for wanting in. The O'Reilly Series is now airing nationally on the CW. Ratings are strong, and the opportunity is real. Why would anyone turn that down? With that mountain of criticism surrounding him, Cleetus showed up at Rockingham Speedway for a massive test session with his RCR crew ahead of his series debut. He drove for 10 hours straight. He burned through 5 complete sets of tires, and when the session was over, he posted, "Had the greatest day of racing in my entire life yesterday. Learned so much in 10 hours of driving, more than I could have imagined. RCR has an incredible team of people. We went through 5 sets of tires, and there's not a scratch on my new car." It was not entirely smooth, though, and this is where the story gets interesting. About 70 laps into one tire run, with the rubber completely worn down to nothing, the rear of the car snapped loose coming through a corner. The car kicked sideways and looked certain to slide into the wall. This was the moment his critics had been waiting for. He caught it. He saved it. He kept the car off the wall and kept going. A clip of the save went online and the reaction was immediate. One fan wrote, "I can't lie, that's a solid save." Another said, "Pretty good save, all things considered. Much better than overcorrecting and going head-on into the wall." And one fan pointed out the key detail. He was on his 70th lap on that set of tires. The grip was essentially gone. That context made the save significantly more impressive. It is also worth noting what RCR's crew had deliberately set up. They ran the tires to the absolute end of their life cycle, specifically so Mitchell could feel what it would be like under race conditions late in a stint. They were preparing him, not protecting him. The last time he had tested at Rockingham for his Craftsman Truck Series approval, he had crashed. This time, he caught a moment that would have ended most drivers' sessions right there. April 4, 2026. The North Carolina Education Lottery, 250 at Rockingham Speedway. Cleetus McFarland made his NASCAR O'Reilly Auto Parts Series debut. He qualified P35. He also entered the ARCA Menard Series East race on the same day, meaning he was competing in 2 professional races on the same track on the same afternoon. The adventure started early. At lap 4, a daring move put his car on the bottom of a 3-wide situation entering turn 1. McFarland slid sideways and made a remarkable save, but immediately lost significant ground to the leaders. At lap 49, Blake Lothian spun in turn 2 just ahead of McFarland. As Lothian wandered down the track, McFarland barely avoided his number 55 Chevrolet, diving to the apron and missing the car by inches. Then came lap 206. His number 33 Richard Childress Racing Chevrolet broke loose in turn 3, sliding to the bottom of the track before spinning back into traffic. It drew the 7th caution flag of the day. He finished 32nd, 6 laps down. He also finished 4th in the ARCA East race, combining to complete 369 of his scheduled 375 laps around Rockingham across both events on the day. Appearing on the Door Bumper Clear podcast on Monday, gave his honest assessment. The best thing about Cleetus is interviews. At least he's coming out and saying, "Oh, this is way harder than I thought." He had a lot of assets going into that, with the test and all the people that were surrounding him and helping him. Dude, you don't have any idea what it takes to run in the middle or the latter part of the pack at Rockingham. He still got over his skis multiple times, but his driving talent saved it. Many other drivers would have wiped that car out in some of those slides and events that he had. So, I give him credit for that. I think he can drive, he's just gotta learn to drive these cars on these tracks. Following his Rockingham debut, NASCAR did not approve Cleetus McFarland for his planned next start at Talladega Superspeedway. Officials made clear they operate on a race-by-race conditional approval basis and want to see him accumulate more experience on short tracks before clearing him for a superspeedway at that speed and scale. Mitchell addressed the decision directly. It is what it is. He confirmed more Craftsman Truck Series races are on his schedule. He is set to race at Nashville Superspeedway in the O'Reilly Series and at Talladega in the Truck Series in October 2026. His ARCA schedule continues as well, with races at Michigan International Speedway still ahead. And he is not just relying on the RCR platform. He sold his personal powerboat to purchase a super late model race car and is working with his ARCA team to develop it as a pro late model first, building his skills step by step. He owns the Freedom Factory, which means he can practice on his own track whenever he wants. During the ARCA Menard Series race at Talladega, over 100,000 people watched his in-car camera live. That number alone tells you something. The debate around Cleetus McFarland is not really just about one driver's career trajectory. It is about what NASCAR is becoming. The tension between traditional merit-based pathways and the reality that fame, sponsorship, and audience size now carry real weight in professional motorsport. On the Dale Jr. Download podcast, Mitchell addressed the criticism directly. "I think right now I'm the rookie, and people can say whatever they want, but when I keep coming back every time and they realize that their words don't affect me time and time again, they're going to run out of breath because as long as I'm having fun, I'm going to keep showing up at these NASCAR races." He also referenced his background in drag racing, where he faced the same ridicule when he first started. "When I went into drag racing, I was the class clown. They all thought I was a joke." The rest of that sentence doesn't need to be said. He is still here. He is still racing. And the people who wrote him off the first time are still watching. If you enjoyed this video, like, subscribe, and share it with a fellow NASCAR fan. Hit that notification bell so you never miss an update on Cleetus McFarland's wild NASCAR journey.